Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have huge news here this morning. We had day 3 of the DNC. Tim Walz, the speech, what a massive flop. We all expected it to be at least 25, 30 minutes. Bill Clinton ends up speaking, I think almost like double of what Walz ended up saying. There's no policy in it. He's bashing J.D. Vance twice for going to Yale. Seemingly a lot of jealousy, pent-up aggression there when it comes to Vance. Of course, he's got his debate against Vance on October 1st, but we have just seen the market shift in terms of the overall odds with more and more people seeing the cesspool that is the DNC, and I did call it a cesspool. I mean, in my live streams, I've been calling it that. That's what it is, and you've got Trump right now sitting at a 7% advantage. Remember, Kamala Harris, and I do want to stress to people, these things change rapidly. So, I mean, last week, Kamala Harris, I think, had a 10-point lead. I remember at one point it was 54 to 44%. Now Trump's up 53 to 46. That just goes to show you all of the people that were getting very depressed and dooming when Harris was up by 10. Guys, this is a long election cycle. Let's calm down. As long as it stays close, I think that's great news for Trump, because remember, when it comes to the poly market odds, it's mainly based off of the polls, and we have got 3 or 4 great polls out of Pennsylvania for Trump recently. We also got the great Virginia poll, which shows Trump neck and neck with Harris, and it shows Glenn Youngkin with a plus, I think, like 14-point approval rating. Harris was minus 10. So if Youngkin is campaigning for Trump, that's going to help significantly. You do have the RFK Jr. thing coming up, we expect on Friday, where RFK will be holding a dual rally with Donald Trump. He's going to be endorsing Donald Trump. Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s VP, said it's going to be one of the biggest political events we've seen in recent memory. And we would expect RFK to help Trump by maybe half a point to upwards of a point, which is huge, especially if you look at a state like Pennsylvania with all of the positive stuff we've seen with the underlying metrics. We would expect Pennsylvania to go to Donald Trump by about 1.5 to 2 points. He's been leading the polls there only by a point, but with RFK's endorsement and also based on recent polling history, 2020 and 2016, it wouldn't surprise me if Trump won that state by like 3 or 4 points. Honestly, at least I would say a point or two. Remember, Trump was expected to lose Florida. It's kind of like Pennsylvania is the new Florida, where, remember, Trump was expected to lose Florida by 2 or 3 points. There were crazy polls out of Florida 2 days before the election when it was Biden versus Trump that had Biden winning Florida by 8 points. Trump ends up winning it by 3.2. I would expect a similar number in Pennsylvania, but this is big stuff right now. You could say I just refreshed it. It is still 53 to 46. I'm sure this will update. It might go down a little bit for Trump. It might go up for Harris. Who knows? It's going to ebb and flow. But the point is, this is the real-time data. This is the real-time update. People reacting to the DNC, and they are not liking what they're seeing. They tried to do the whole hope thing last night. It fell flat, and now it's going to be Kamala Harris, the badass prosecutor, saying, and they've already tried to swing it like that, where they're like, oh, she put people in prison, but she hasn't done anything as a VP, and they're not talking about it. They're not talking about Biden. Biden leaves after day 1. He's still, he is the president of the United States that was there for 1 day, and by the way, the worst day of them all, Monday, of the DNC, and now he's vacationing in California, and he went on a plane to California on Monday night. So he did his little speech, and then he goes straight to the private Air Force One, and then he goes to California. That's how ridiculous this entire thing is. And that's why Trump's up by so much in terms of independents. I saw some ridiculous Texas polls. The sampling is crazy. They only had Trump up by 4 or 5. That shows you the response bias we're still dealing with when it comes to Texas. Trump's going to win Texas, I'd say, by about 7 or 8 points, I think. So Texas will be fine. There's no doubt about it. We do also have, this was kind of a shame. So this was my favorite forecaster, because this was the only forecaster that gave Donald Trump an 85% chance to beat Biden. And that's what it was. That's how badly Trump was beating Biden. And now they've decided to put this behind a paywall. And it's $23 a month. Now, I might pay it anyways, but you can see they've got Harris at 271, Trump at 267. Honestly, based on the recent polls, because remember, these forecasts, there's no nuance to them. They're based off of polls. They're based off of how the formulas grade the polls. If a poll gets an A+, an A-, we know how ridiculous those grades are in general. But I'm just saying, this is all based off of polls. So obviously, if it's only going to be based off polls, Harris, she's led some polls recently in Michigan. She's led some polls recently in Wisconsin. And so for this to be 271 to 267, certainly I think Trump is up right now and in a very good position, and probably market would agree. But I do wonder if we go to the, there it is. So they did throw it behind the paywall. So maybe I will pay for that. But overall, that is just the situation. We do also have updated numbers. This is a Harris poll. I guess it has a grade of a C. This was done on the 3rd of August. See, why do they even release these? Or was this just somebody tweeting this out? If this was done on the 3rd of August, it's kind of irrelevant. You can see Harris sitting +2. That's with Kennedy. Kennedy getting 9%. But again, I think this was a while ago. Recently, Kennedy's been polling a lot lower because people think he's going to drop out. And you can see the head-to-head Trump versus Harris. Trump sitting +2 in just a pure popular vote, which is really good for Trump, considering if Kennedy does drop out, that is going to help him significantly in terms of that. So really good numbers there. We've got a New York poll, and take a look at the data sample on this. Over the span of 20 days, Harris up by 16. So there were a few New York polls that only had Biden up by 9 or 10, and it doesn't surprise me at all based off of the sentiment, the whole hope thing, Harris getting all these boosts, that she'd be up by 16. And to be fair, the Biden polls were very sporadic. It wasn't like they were constantly polling New York and Biden was consistently only up by 9 or 10. There were only like 2 polls. So Harris being up by 16. New York, unfortunately, is not going to be in play. I think for the Republicans to get New York in play, it would require... We would need Trump to, I'm saying for 2028, we would need Trump to keep it within, I would say, 10 points for New York to be in play in 2028, and even that would be hard. I mean, look at how hard it is for the libs to move Texas into being a swing state, and that's with all of them moving there and still voting liberal. So New York is going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. We also do have, this is just an overall update on everything. North Carolina, Trump sitting at a 63% chance. Georgia, Trump at a 61% chance. Nevada, Trump at a 55% chance. Arizona, 54% chance. Pennsylvania, 52% chance. That's probably based off the recent polls there. Wisconsin, Harris at a 56% chance. And then Michigan, that would be the one where Harris would be more of a favorite based on polling, but I do think Wisconsin and Pennsylvania would be trending to Trump right now. I think all of these swing states would go to Trump, honestly. I don't see a single one outside of possibly Michigan, based on all of the polling that we've seen, that Trump would really struggle with and possibly lose. So there is that. And then we also do have, this. Dana Bash just said that. I remember Trump saying in one of his rallies, is it Dana or Dana? I think it's Dana Bash just said that Kamala Harris's campaign is tailoring its message to appeal to low testosterone men. And yeah, I mean, that's basically what she admits. She says it's like the soft Midwestern dad. That's what they're going for. And that was the vibe that I noticed last night during the DNC, saying they're targeting men who might not be the testosterone-laden, gun-touting type who want to listen to Hulk Hogan. And then she tried to correct it and said, well, maybe they're also trying to reach out to those men as well. Like, oh, you can have a soft side. It's the whole idea. Oh, it's 2024. Men have feelings too. And so that's their strategy. So she's saying, I mean, yeah, they're trying to get like soy boys. And that's basically what the demographic is when it comes to the men within the Democratic Party. We also do have, this was the Texas poll that I was talking about. So some Republicans might get a little bit worried about this. Texas only being +5 for Trump. The Senate, I do think Ted Cruz should win by about 4 or 5 points. I think Trump's probably going to end up winning by 7 or 8. Remember, this is August 5th through the 16th, so there's, I'm sure, some bias there with just Harris people really energized. You can see the approvabilities. I mean, Trump and Harris are basically the same in the state of Texas. Guys, see, the issue with this is, and this is the ultimate thing that everyone says, but it is funny, you did have a decent amount. And look, I'm not saying that, Texas is going to be a battleground state in 2028, but liberals will see these numbers and they'll interpret it and say it is going to be a battleground state in 2028. But they've been saying that, remember in 2016, they said, well, at least 2020, definitely 2024 to be battleground. Now they're saying 2028. But I will say the big problem, and this is not coping, this is just very sad what happens. I mean, these people will move from liberal cesspool cities, ran to the ground by Democrats. They'll move to Texas and they'll still vote for the same policies. So it's like they make this huge decision to uproot their life because of the horrible policies and how bad it is and maybe the housing prices, whatever. But then they move and they continue to vote for the same thing. So it's like, it's almost like you're trying to swim up water. You're swimming upstream. you're just not going anywhere because you're voting for the same thing that got you there in the first place. But again, I don't think that's going to really matter with Texas because it's got such a big population. There are the major cities, though, that are definitely going to lean to the left. They've got several of them there. And when it comes to this, I would not be too worried at all about Texas. Again, I would say 7 or 8 point victory for Trump. You could say based off of recent poll or recent election history, in 2012, I want to say Romney won it by 16. 2016, I want to say Trump won it by maybe 9. And then 2020, Trump won it by about 7. So it is coming up a little bit lower. We would like to see that hold at around a 7 or an 8 point lead in the state of Texas. If Trump can win Texas by 7 or 8, that is something that would be needed. You need to make sure you keep these. Texas is such an important core state. It'd be like the left losing New York, right? And then that's what Republicans are obviously trying to do with New York. You had positive numbers in 2022. But overall, guys, the point of this video when it comes to the DNC, what an absolute mess. What a cringe fest. And so all of this, people are seeing it and they're saying, wow, this is terrible. There's no policy. They're going after Trump. And then they gaslight and they say, well, all Trump does is be negative. They mentioned Trump 147 times on day one. They talked about inflation 3 times. They might have talked about inflation even less last night. It might have been 1 time or 0 times. And you've got Waltz going up there. You've got JD Vance who speaks for like 35, 40 minutes. Waltz can barely get done with 10 minutes. This is why everyone thinks that Vance is going to crush Waltz in the debate. Even the left thinks that. They've admitted it. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.